We are back here on the Senior Network, and we are having a wonderful time demystifying the aging process and the things we need to do. I tell you, again, during the break, it's always interesting to hear what people have to say. And Jay, you made a really good point. We're going to talk to Jen a little bit about the basics of hospice, but you said it best, and you keep confirming it's all about the planning.
Right.
And being able to spend time with your family in a meaningful way that doesn't necessarily involve, I hate to say potential conflict or money or stuff.
Sure.
I mean, is that a good way to say it?
Right.
I do want to talk to you about hospice care of the Lowcountry, because you're a bit different than many hospice organizations, and I'd like to know a little bit about how you work, and again, when do we bring you in?
Well, hospice comes in when the physician has determined that there is a life-limiting illness, a terminal illness, with a life expectancy of 6 months or less.
Okay.
And Medicare writes that rule.
Okay.
Yeah.
We come in, do an assessment and an evaluation. Many of our patients are cancer patients, but end-stage cardiac, lung disease, any Alzheimer's, anything end-stage. We come in and do an assessment. The nurse comes in, becomes that case manager. That patient has chosen comfort care. They no longer are seeking curative care. They want to stay home. They want to stay out of the hospital.
So it's all palliative care at that point.
Correct. They want to stay out of the emergency room. They want to be surrounded by their friends and family.
Got it.
Often we're calling Greg in as that 24/7 or sometimes just nighttime care, so that family can rest during the night, so they can take care of their family during the day.
It's a lot of work on the spouse or the other
absolutely.
person.
There's medication management. There's crisis management. We want to keep them out of pain. We want to keep them comfortable. We want to keep those symptoms at bay. We want to keep them as awake and as responsible to their families as possible.
And what did you say? Because it was brilliant.
Well, what I was saying was, when hospice is called, it's time for the families to spend quality time with each other, not to be picking up the phone and calling their attorney to plan what they should have planned 6 months earlier. But you mentioned with 6 months left, that's the time that families need to just spend quality time with each other, with grandkids, everything else, and leave the planning for later, because it's hopefully already been taken care of.
And when they can do that, it's really a beautiful time, and it is end of life. It's the last phase of life, but there can be a lot of laughter. There can be a lot of joy, and you're bringing the families in. Greg mentioned a lot of our families are out of town, so that's the time where we're corresponding with people in the West Coast or in another country and trying to make this okay.
It's been
for
interesting.
Mom and Dad.
Well, I've had experiences with people who've been through the hospice, and the relationships kind of continue on even after the death of the loved one. It's pretty impressive.
Well, and hospice is not a bad word.
No.
Just like Jay implied there,
Right.
I mean, it's a time the families come together and spend together. It's
the things you do for the family as well as the patient have been pretty significant too.
Well, it's not just
sending them to you.
Not just about the patient, but it's
Right.
about that family and what can we do. This is a difficult time, and it can be a sad time, and what can we can provide. We have a number of volunteers. We have almost 200 volunteers that can sit at the bedside, so that caregiver can get out and about and do his or her things.
One of the things that I'm hearing from all three of you is the collaborative, which surprises me really, the collaborative nature of your businesses. Do you find that?
Oh yeah, all the time. And if we could get together more with forums like this and talk ahead of time and get more proactive, that's what it really comes down to, is planning.
It's kind of an interdisciplinary approach that really makes, I would think, would best serve the entire family.
Definitely, and that's what the Senior Network's all about. We want to educate and get the message out to people to learn what's out there for them and to start planning now instead of in a crisis situation.
You need more than one discipline. You need nurses and physicians and nurses' aides and therapists and all of those too, and attorneys, and to make it okay and make it a good journey for these patients.
Do you find that part of your role is to kind of guide people as to when and where to go if they're being proactive?
Absolutely, because it's amazing. We get calls all the time for random things that you would never think that somebody would call an attorney about. But hopefully, whatever the circumstance is, we can point them in the right direction. I can say, yes, right at home, that's who you need to call so that you can get home care, because maybe it's not too late for them to stay in their home for a time longer. Maybe hospice is right for them. Hopefully they have a healthcare power of attorney and an agent in place to make those healthcare decisions. But the principal, the person that's suffering, has already made the decisions on what they want to happen if they want hospice in advance. So yes, they call us all the time and we send them to the right people.
Okay, from your point of view, do you find that you're often the first line of defense? You said that people call often inquiring.
I wish it was more, but a lot of times no. It's a lot of times when someone goes into the hospital and then there's a discharge situation, and then they figure out, wow, I cannot go home without a support network in place, and the family's not here. And so that's when we typically will come in. That's the majority of the time. Yeah.
From a personality point of view, do you find that that's a really important piece of this whole thing, is really understanding the temperament of the families that you're look at, you're like, exactly.
I'm smiling because we've all heard the phrase cookie cutter. I like to say every family, every individual needs an estate plan as unique as they are. There is not a family out there that is the same. Nobody's the same. Why should they have an estate plan that is the same as everyone else's? Because each individual and each family is planning for their legacy. That's what it amounts to.
So part of what you do is active listening. You're a good listener.
Absolutely, because I listen
I mean, seriously, yeah.
I listen to what the families want, and that's what we give them. It's not the same for every family or every individual.
Once again, what I've found during this first show is that the more questions we ask and answer, the more questions we have, because I think as we gain a little knowledge, it's going to make us better consumers. We want to thank all of you for joining us here on the Senior Network. You're good. You're going to be fun. Listen to this. Stay with us. I know. It's great. Thanks again to all of you for joining us here on the Senior Network. See you next week. Bye-bye.